Well, hello again. We're here with Tanya Joyce, poet, artist, writer, so many talents you have. Uh, Co-costumer too. Yeah, that was great. And in a different Art of All book, this is the Art of All 4, the spoken word dances the universe. There's an absolutely marvelous article in here that you wrote about why read poetry out loud. And I think it's worth uh, putting in a program so that people have a chance to savor it because there were so many excellent ideas in that article. Why don't you go ahead and uh, why read poetry out loud, Tanya?
Basically, why read poetry out loud is so that you can understand it. That sounds silly, and I will go into it some. I was in a conversation one time with a musician who is very, very familiar with lyrics, which are poetry, and old poetry was accompanied by music, but not today. So the musician knew lyrics, but when he read poetry, he read it like a sentence. So the line breaks didn't mean anything. And line breaks do mean something. They mean take a breath pause. Some poetry has a breath pause in the middle of the line. Basically, if you never heard of it, it doesn't even have to be in a language you understand. You hear what the Welsh tradition calls tongue music. And it makes people interested so you don't get bored at a poetry reading. Now, there's two aspects to that. You, as a reader, are helped out a lot at home by paying attention to every sound, every syllable in a poem. As an audience member, you might well go to sleep if the poet reading has not learned that you need dynamics of voice and change of this and that and the other thing to read poetry out loud. I came to San Francisco in the sort of last year or so of the Beat generation, and contrary to public opinion today, most of the Beat poets were so boring when they read aloud because they read their words, and the words went on and on and on because it was important. I mean, a lot that it was popular, so there was a lot of acceptance of that style of reading, but really it was awfully boring. Um, um,
That's a renowned issue at many of the international conferences is the different styles that have passed through poetry and received great acclaim for a certain amount of time. And then it changed to a more modernized version of the reed. And at some times it revived poetry when it was on its um, not necessarily big demise, but uh, loss of
yeah,
popularity. And so it became a more energized public event
yes,
because of this new changes in style of reading.
yes, and some of the events like the World Congress of Poets, then you get poetry in different languages added to that. And one of the things that helps immensely is to have more than one person read. Um, I did a program for the Speech Arts Association where there were three of us,
Oh, tell
and
about
we
that. I
read
remember this.
the tradition of reading haiku because they're so short is to read them three times. Well, we had three readers, so we each read the same haiku. We had different voices, and this immediately helps a little bit like music.
I remember that that was a smash hit And it was just the atmosphere changed so much with how people approached the poem.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing that is a little harder today for many, many people is that people have no experience at public speaking.
Oh, that's good.
And there are some people, Bay Area poets, who get around that, who have learned, are people like Garrett Murphy in Oakland and Marvin Heemstra in San Francisco. They read very totally differently from each other, but they both have learned how to put their words into visual music and or verbal and visual music, because you're seeing them at a reading as well as listening to them. um, when I was in school, starting with third grade, I knew we all had to get up and give a little report about something. And the teachers would say, if the people in the back of the room can't hear, say so. Well, of course, the kids in the back of the room love to say, oh, I can't hear. But nonetheless, you became used to public speaking. We learned in maybe fifth grade, sixth grade, how to have little cards, little 3x5 cards with your main points on it. If you're talking, not just reciting, but you're talking about something. And even something like how I spent my vacation, or something like that. So I had that experience. A lot of people don't today, and they're afraid to get up and speak. Well, when we were at the Alameda Museum, we used to do workshops to encourage people. Now,
That was so
we,
much fun, especially since we had heard so often and so many times that public speaking was the largest fear of people than
yes,
anything
yes,
else.
yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry I interrupted. Go ahead,
No,
Tanya.
it's fine. And not all public speaking is interesting. But if you want people to understand you, then it helps. And